thousands of people, protesters. Their problem? Corporate greed. This protest began 52 days ago. That's a long protest. They brought out their tents. They set up their tents. They started their encampments. They took some clothes with them, some patchouli oil, not very much soap. Today, they take over K.F.I. They want you to know they're not just hippies in drum circles. They have a message. This, today, is Occupy K.F.I. Today, we learn what the message is. 3 of the people from Occupy LA have agreed to abandon their post from the LA City Hall lawn. A very sad, thirsty, dying lawn, I gotta say. But they have abandoned their post, and they're here to host a show to Occupy K.F.I. Give us an idea of what their message is. There'll be no drum circles. They promise to leave when it's over. I've told them where the showers are. So let's meet them. First up, Travis Shivers. Travis, tell us about you, who you are, where you're from, why you're involved.
All right. Hello, everybody. Yes. I have been in LA now for 7 years. I have been in the entertainment business all the time here. I've done lighting and sound for several years, and now for about 3 years, I've produced videos, commercials, music videos, small documentaries, and well, what happened with me was over the summer, I left to go shoot a documentary, actually about hitchhiking around the country. I was gone for a couple months. I got back, and it's been murder trying to find work, and I actually ended up having to find work outside of the industry. Ooh, yeah, it's like a sin.
Do people still hitchhike?
Yeah, we do. It's really it's like it's always been. Yeah.
You don't freak out that the guy's going to be a crazy person?
That's a misconception. We go to we're in the grocery store with the same people in the population that we're on the highways. It's a misconception that just because you're picking someone hitchhiking, you're a serial killer. That's an illusion. But so like what happened with me is I actually got back, looked for that kind of work. It didn't go down. I then found marketing, a regular 9-to-5 marketing job. Within a couple of weeks of that, they come and say, the economy is worse than we thought. We can't really even train you. And boom, that was a week before the first. So I'm like, oh my God, this is very scary and horrible. What's going on with the economy? I started looking into it more. Things are really bad for a lot of people, and a lot of really educated people even, So when I started seeing what's happening in Wall Street through my Facebook, I was like, yeah. More actually headache, more, clash or whatever. I'm not really even into protesting. But what I saw videos about people meditating and sharing, and they were talking about how everyone was supporting them all around the world. And, I kind of teared up and I thought, you know what, this is it. This is a chance right here. This is a chance for the people to come together. So that first Saturday, I came down with my sleeping bag and I knew I was going to do it. That first night was so nice. There was no police presence. The police that we did talk to was really great. The police have been amazing the whole time. It's like a miracle. It's like people are really getting it. Everyone knows we're all the 99%. I don't care who you are, even rich people, the 99%. And it's like that vision is real in LA. We really are coming together. So, like I say, I've been here for 29 days now, and it's a beautiful thing to be experiencing. It's really super peaceful, It's really not like, the overall scene. I understand there's a lot of clashing going on, but, we can't blame the cops for, overall for a couple of bad people, just like you can't blame a couple of us for being, just because I'm one of the dirty hippies. Yeah, no, it doesn't mean all of us are dirty hippies. You know what I'm saying?
You're not that dirty.
I'm not that dirty. I had a shower not too long ago. But the thing is, I do believe in one world family. Like, we are one people as a human race. And I do believe that I'm here to help turn the 99% into the 100%. I'm not trying to point fingers and blame, but there is some very uncool things going on that we need to stop, and we need to have people held accountable for what they're doing.
And you bring up a good point, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that City Hall lawn situation and what goes on there and how it's all working out. But if for people who don't know, City Hall is right across a very small street from the police administration building. The LAPD is right there. I was there on Friday. I saw the police chief, Charlie Beck, walk back and forth from meetings at City Hall 3-4 times, walk right by all those tents. And the police have been there. I believe they have 8 officers stationed there all the time. And it's just been a really good relationship between the protesters and the LAPD, something we haven't seen in other cities like Oakland. And we'll get to that. But awesome. Thank you, Travis, for being here.
You're welcome.
Megan.
Hi.
Megan McCauley.
Yes.
Tell us about you.
I'm a recording artist. I was signed with major record labels, done a few songs on, soundtracks here and there. Fantastic Four, Elektra, Beverly Hills Chihuahua with Disney. And I'm here because I am part of the 99%, even as, someone who is not losing their homes. It's pretty much, I'm here because I realize there is a large group of people who are finally standing up for what is wrong in this country. It is becoming a revolution. And I firmly disagree in the fact that privately owned banks like the Federal Reserve are what funds these, our government and these unconstitutional organizations like the Internal Revenue Service. There is no law that says that you have to pay taxes. Only corporations do. And I have become a victim of that in many senses myself. I was a child star, so to speak, for a minute. I got signed at a young age, and I got into a huge epic battle with the IRS. And I really did not make all that much money being a signed artist. There's things like recoupable bills and things like that. And they came after me for money that I don't have. And all I am is a recording artist. And, I could possibly face jail time, for not paying something that is unconstitutional to even pay to begin with. And so the fact that the 99% now are standing up with Wall Street and all of these things, everybody's got their own reasons to be there and their own issues. And I really heavily support the movement tremendously.
You have a beautiful voice.
Thank you.
You should do some work in radio.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for being here. Elijah Wolf.
Hi, yeah, I'm Elijah, and I am a USC student currently studying literature. And I came down on day one because I've been really waiting and hoping for this to happen, for people on a large scale to say, there's something here that's just not right with our political system. At the root of our political system, there's something, not good going on, and it affects all aspects of our society and all aspects of our culture, and we need to start talking to each other. So I came down to be part of this dialogue, which is a global dialogue. This is a global conversation that's happening now between all of us. And we need to say there are a lot of serious problems we need to address, and there's not going to be an easy solution. There's going to have to be a long conversation. So that's my real reason for doing this and, bringing attention and speaking to people and, protesting and waving signs and camping in a tent is to get us to start talking to each other. What are our issues? How did we get here? Because I live in Los Angeles, and I live in downtown Los Angeles, and it is a divided city. It's divided among economic lines. It's divided among, race and culture. And why are we so divided? And why are we, fighting each other? Why are we fighting each other, and why are we not looking at who is keeping us down? So that's why I'm here.
And I believe when I was out at Occupy LA last week, maybe the week before, there were a lot of people. I'm not sure if you were there when I had this conversation, but they were saying, look around the world. This is how things are getting done. Libya. Look around the world. This is how people are having a voice. Do you agree with that? Do you think this is the way to change things, just by having these huge protests?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Hopefully
grassroots.
it doesn't get as violent as Libya.
Yeah, it's grassroots. This is democracy. This is by the people. That's what this country was started on.
Yeah, if you look, our General Assembly process comes from Madrid, from the occupation in Madrid. That's how we hold our, participatory democratic meeting that we hold every night. That system came from Spain, and they were inspired by Egypt and Tunisia, and so were we. And what we were really inspired by was the first American Revolution. This is a continuation of that. This is the same ideals that happened in the first American Revolution. We are bringing those ideals back, and we are saying 99%, if you are a human being and you can talk to other human beings, you're part of the 99%, and you belong in this conversation.
Okay, and I really want to hear more about what goes on there on that lawn, on that sad little lawn.
Well,
but we'll come back and do that if that's okay. Well, you can tell us about the meetings and the camaraderie and the tents. I heard there are 400 tents, but 700 people. So I want to know what goes on with the tent sharing. So we'll get to all of that. You are listening to Occupy K.F.I. We'll get a check of some traffic, and when we come back, where this is going, how long it will last, when will the City Hall grass breathe again. This is K.F.I. AM 640, more stimulating talk radio. It's Saturday, October 29th, and this is KFI AM 640. I'm Shannon Farron from KFI News here from 2 to 4. This is Occupy KFI.
All right, we were just about to talk about what it's actually like on site. And, you know, for me, I have been there 29 days, and it's really amazing. It's like a constant think tank. It's like there's nothing going on there but inspiration and passion about what's happening here. And you know, I really have I gotta share with you, you know, like this is a big thing, you know, and I know we want each other to come up with like really quick, tell me what your demand is, really quick, what's going on, and it's just not that simple. You know, this is something that requires some dialogue. It requires some thinking. This is generations deep, guys. This is a big problem about the power structure, the distribution of goods on the planet. You know, this is something, you know, that we're coming together. And the site, to me, is really like a microcosm of the macrocosm. It's like a working model of our society and our world in a small little model. And a lot of us on site are looking at it as such and working out ways in which how we come together and learning ways in which that we can be self-contained and we can do it on our own. So for example, there's things that we're adapting called Shantazina. Now Shantazina was invented by Gandhi, and it's been used, to my knowledge, now for 40 years now with the rainbow gatherings, the national rainbow gatherings. They've been doing this, you know, practicing the First Amendment rights for 40 years now. And what this is a way of basically, if there's ever a problem or an issue that anyone's having, you yell Shantazina, and everyone in the camp, everyone that's a part of the community comes running. That way, we as a group handle it, and we as a group are protected. So it's a way of not having others, you know, that are protecting us. Where it's self-governing, it's self-protecting in a way. And so what we're doing is we're learning a new paradigm of how to come together as one human family. And another really amazing thing on site is that it's like, you know, this movement is so beyond any political affiliation. It's beyond cultural difference, and it really even comes down to, even though the main issue in a way is economics, there's super rich people still that are still being affected by this. We're talking about 1% of the population. We're not talking about wealthy people. We're not talking about rich people. We're talking about specific amounts of people that there's only a few thousand of them actually. You know, like there's like, you know, the majority of the world is being, you know, manipulated and messed with by these people. And so the beauty of this and why so many of us are excited is because this is literally waking up the sleeping giant. Everyone here listening to this is not one of the 1%ers. There may be a couple of listening, but this is about you. And especially to me, people like the cops and everyone in that field of the military. Later on, I'll really get into how I feel about that, but you are the 99%, and we love you guys, and we thank you so much for what you're doing. Real quick, before I pass this on, I wanted to mention, as I mentioned again, that, you know, there's a lot of military people coming down and putting on the uniforms, and they're making a call for that. There's the Marines are doing that. They're, you know, really coming together and feel so passionate and motivated because they see this as what they were really doing when we're fighting wars. This is our one chance to come together.
Yeah, I wanted to. Yeah, that's what Shantazina is, like that idea that Gandhi cultivated. That you see a problem and you call it out, and then the people around you rush in to help fix that problem. So it's about not having. I mean, we do have a security force, and we call them the peacekeepers. And they're identified as the peacekeepers, and they do their job. They keep the peace, and they talk down if they see an escalation starting to happen. If they see an argument, they help talk to people and to keep that argument from escalating. But more importantly, we have to look out for each other. If we see something going on, we have to. You can't just stand there and let it happen. You have to act. You know, this is about, for too long, we have just stood and watched things happen to our neighbors. And we haven't acted. We haven't showed up and said, "Hey, you're in trouble. I should help you guys out because you're my neighbor." And that's really what the core of that is, you know, taking responsibility for your community, taking responsibility that your own actions have a real effect in the world, that what you choose to do and what systems you choose to partake in, that's how those systems operate. Because of your consent and your choice. So it's about a self-governing in that aspect. You know, we govern ourselves. That's why we have no leader, because we're each our own leader. That's why it's a leaderless movement, because we're governing ourselves.
Yeah, there's a real camaraderie on the camp, which I really dig. It sparks in my mind back to what Lenin, you know, believed in and talked about, and it's people getting past their points of, you know, color, creed, you know, religion, we're realizing now that we are the 99%, and if we don't come together and stand up for the wrongdoings that are going on, like, you know, it's just going to get worse. It's been getting worse for decades, and now is the time. You know, we're standing together and we're forgetting, you know, all of our differences, and we are standing up as human race and helping each other out whenever anybody needs, you know, something. If I'm thirsty, there's always someone walking by handing out bottles of water. Like, you know, if there was a health emergency, there'd be probably 5 people carrying you to the medic tent, you know, if you passed out of heat exhaustion. Everybody is helping each other out, and it's an amazing thing to see that come together.
You know, along with that, though, you know, the truth of the matter is there's growing pains. You know, I see it as this is one of the first times a lot of us have ever got to be involved in the dynamics like this. We're not there because our bosses told us to go there, our mom and dad's, and it's not a school project. We're there from our own heart, from our own inspiration. And because there's no hierarchy, we're in a space that's kind of free in a way we've never felt before. And there's a lot of passion, and there's a lot of things we're working out as individuals, you know? And so, you know, yeah, there's conflicts, there's things going on, there's real human stuff happening. But, you know, the truth is I admire so many people who have been there and have expressed themselves and have gotten in conflicts, and they just keep going. Day after day after day, we get through them. We'll go through the process, you know, and that's the evolution of the camp. Since the first day I was there till now, there's been a huge evolution in the way that we relate to each other. You know, there was a lot of cultural things going on. You know, a lot of us have never really kicked it in each other's neighborhoods. And somehow through this commonality, here we are, we're living together on the lawn of City Hall. Yes, things are coming up. Yes, you know, a lot of us aren't used to living in this way, you know?
Okay, awesome. We're going to hear more from you guys when we come back from news. A lot of people are lighting up the phone lines. They want to talk to you. They have questions for you guys, how it all works, what your message is, what will make you happy. So we're going to take those calls when we come back from news. If you want to call in, the number is 800-520-1KFI. Again, 800-520-1KFI. But first, let's check in with Amy King in the KFI newsroom. What's going on, Amy? Talk Radio. I'm Shannon Farron from KFI News. This is Occupy KFI. We have 3 occupiers here occupying KFI, taking your calls at 1-800-520-1KFI. You guys ready?
Yes.
All right, Susan from Highland Park, you're up.
Hey, guys, I just want to thank you so much for occupying LA. I am so grateful to you, and I just have one question, and that is, I hear the city council talking about the trees and the grass and how much they want to protect the trees and the grass on the city hall lawns from you. I love trees and grass. I'm a native plant fanatic. But this just seems like a false issue. I mean, where was their love for trees and grass when they raised the South Central Farm a few years ago and turned it into a wasteland? Can you talk about that?
Yeah,
Yes.
a good point of this is actually the fact that Los Angeles City Hall is based off of, you know, kind of the same plan as the White House. And the reason that the government puts so much land in the front and behind and north, south, east, and west is for the First Amendment right, which is the peaceful, you know, right to peacefully protest. And that's why we have all that there. So if they're going to keep complaining about the grass, I'll tell you what, I will personally, when this all ends, come down with some straw and some seed and replant grass myself, because that is a load of malarkey. That reason is.
Well, there is actually talk of that happening, but I think that you're absolutely correct with what you say. There's such big environmental issues going on that tie into the corporations that we're dealing with and the results of the Federal Reserve and the Wall Street stuff. You know, there's such huge issues that this does seem like a false issue. And, you know, everyone involved, you know, none of us want that happening. That's a small sacrifice for a greater good. And we're willing, and I've heard lots of talk of people willing to do whatever they can to help it, you know, after the fact.
Yeah, like what about the smog in Los Angeles? Why don't we have public transportation? Why don't we have infrastructure? I mean, I would think that having smog every day covering, you know, miles and miles of the city and poisoning our air supply is a worse problem than a little plot of lawn, which is there for us to exercise our First Amendment rights, which we are exercising.
Which I do want to throw in real fast too, that overall City Hall has been very supportive. I've been and I've been to the council. I've spoken, you know, and so overall, I think that for the most part, they have been pretty supportive until last few days.
Excellent. Susan, thanks for your call. Louis in Orange County. How you doing, Louis?
Hi, guys. Thanks for taking the call. I guess my question is, I've got a few here, but the first one I'd like to ask is, what is it that you're exactly looking to get out of the sit-in, and when exactly or what do you guys consider success?
Well, what we're looking to get is, it's a multi-tiered thing. Ultimately, what we're looking to get is having a real voice in our democracy, in our democratic system, where you show up and you vote, and that vote matters. And it really matters, where we have politicians that are held accountable to us, to the people. And we are getting people together, and we are getting people to talk to each other, and we're getting people to express their frustrations so that when we show up and vote, it's important.
Yes. I agree with that. It's real physical, tangible change. Laws changed. There's a lot of talk about accountability. There's laws being broken. There's things that are by the books happening. And my take on the whole thing is really about self-empowerment and success to me in this way would be the movement really gets so many people together to be self-empowered, to realize that this is our world, that this is our country. These aren't other people's problems. These are our issues being alive today all together. And, to me, if any one individual is corrupt, it doesn't matter what rules you give them or political affiliation they have, because they're going to corrupt the rules because that's how they are on the inside. So to me, success really comes from the awareness and the togetherness and the way that we're coming together as one people. And so I think this will reverberate into the political system and the economical system when we really touch individuals.
Yeah, I believe it started just to pretty much get the money out of politics, and now it's just grown to put the power back into the people's hands of the United States. That's, what it was based off of. That's why we have the Constitution, and we're not, we're not exercising that anymore. We're not fighting for it. Nobody's standing up for it until now.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. A huge thing that I believe in is the Constitution, and I would love to restore the Constitution.
Louis, did you have another question for him?
Well, I kind of do. When you talk about the financial end, though, how much do you guys hold responsible the individuals in our country who felt like they could put everything on credit? The individuals that felt like, hey, you know what? My neighbor's got the Audi, I'll buy the Audi. Or my neighbor has the boat, or whatever. I deserve this, I deserve that.
Okay, well.
And then all of a sudden, a number of people who are working very hard, and maybe I don't have the time to go down to Los Angeles and protest because my job does require me to be there. And in order to go protest, I can take vacation. That's fine, but I'd rather spend that time with my family. Where do you hold responsible the individuals that didn't have the self-control to go ahead and say, you know what? No, I can't buy that because I can't afford that. And if you really think about it, that's a huge problem in our country. That's where I also think we should start looking at, and kind of start teaching people a little bit about their own finances and how they don't deserve everything just because they can get it for X dollars a month. And then that goes back to our educational system. I'd like to see you guys sit there and protest about our educational system and how that truly is failing children and how we are, quote unquote, leaving no child behind when a child's getting poor grades all year. And then the next thing you know, that child's being moved up to the next grade because we don't have the funds to go ahead and leave that child behind for a year when that's what they really need.
That is exactly what's going on. I personally have went on marches with the teachers. It's a huge side of what we're talking about, and I do agree with you in that aspect. We do need to educate ourselves better. The first question, though, to be honest, and this might be a harsh thing to say, but I think that's like blaming a rape victim for being raped. There's a lot of other variables going on. You can't blame the individual here. We are doing our best. We're all caught up in work, trying to make everything happen. There's media. There's a lot of psychological factors that trigger us into wanting to buy more and be mass consumerists. There's actually physical evidence that shows that there's reasons in our culture why we're doing that. And the real problem isn't in the individual. The real problem has been in the large financial institutions and the banks. We're narrowing that down on site by more and more people, more and more experts coming. The problem isn't that people were buying houses that couldn't buy. It was that it was happening through the rules. There's Bank of America. There's a lot of evidence to support that was going on their side, and they knew about it. If there's rules there to give a loan and they're breaking their own rules, how is that the individual who just wants a better house?
The system of a down. Corporations just go, here, look at this, buy, want, this, just pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'd like to say two things. First of all, I'd like to say, Louis, you should come down and talk to us and be part of our process and be part of this conversation, because anybody who feels what this is a forum for these frustrations that we as the American people have. I mean, we are creating an open forum to come down and to figure out, because there are a lot of problems, like I said, in all aspects of our culture, in our education, in our transportation, in our infrastructure. It's not just economic, it's not just political, it's cultural.
Yeah, it's the 99%. So pretty much, everyone that's there, I would like to see the Patriot Act, gotten rid of completely. I mean, we all have our issues, but that is part of being the 99%.
And yeah, exactly. And there's so many issues. And the thing is, in order to deal with those issues, we need to start taking personal responsibility. And you're right that, there were these predatory loans and predatory lenders and people, passing out credit cards. And we're saying, we're not going to take that anymore. We're not going to fall for this trap anymore, because it's a trap. And it's led to this. It's led to this slow collapse. And we're going to turn around and instead of, envying what your neighbors have, we'll just talk to your neighbors. It's really about communication is what this is about.
This is Occupy KFI. When we come back, more of your calls for the occupiers here at KFI at 1-800-520-1KFI. But first, let's get some traffic. This is KFI AM 640, more stimulating talk radio. This is KFI AM 640, more stimulating talk radio. I'm Shannon Farron from KFI News. This is Occupy KFI. The occupiers are here, fresh from the City Hall lawn, here to take your calls at 1-800-520-1KFI. Scott in Orange County, how's it going?
Hey, how you doing, Shannon?
Doing great.
Good. Yeah, I just want to say, I guess the occupiers have included me in this 99%, which is what they're saying. I'm not in the 1%. With the current system, I'm doing quite well. I've lived in my means. I own a home. I have good credit. I understand I am paid for the back credit, but I'm doing great. I don't understand what's going on here. What I understand is I see a group of people that haven't worked. They're a bunch of freeloaders. They're leaning on, crying and whining, and they haven't worked a day in their lives. And they're saying, we want this and we want that. We want medical and we want this. And we want to be paid and we want high wage. We want to change the system. But you know what? By whining and crying and everything, that wheel does not get oiled.
All right, those freeloaders are a portion of the 99%. That is why it's a 99%. If you are not a Rockefeller, if you are not one of the people, who owns the Federal Reserve Bank, you are included in those 99%. If you file a tax return every year, do you realize that that's unconstitutional? And unless you're a corporation, you don't have to do that. So the Federal Reserve Bank, you could have more money in your pocket. They're ripping you off to feed their pockets, and you should be extremely upset about that. I mean, might not be affecting you, and you might not be comfortable, or you might be comfortable right now, but with the way the economy is going, your children, your grandchildren, their children will not be as comfortable as you are right now. Look around at your friends. Look around at the people around you that are suffering.
They're not comfortable is because people like yourselves that are marching, these people that are marching in the Occupy are basically, they're not paying their fair share. Most of these people, I don't see how they're allowed to sit there in a tent for a month and not pay anything into society. You're destructing local businesses.
Well, this is where you're wrong. I still have an apartment over on, over in Koreatown. I pay for things.
Neighborhoods. You're causing trouble within there. That local businesses are complaining. They've had it with you. The people that are basically supporting the middle class, what you're doing is wrong. We're tired of it.
No, what they're doing is wrong.
I sense in you that you're not happy. And I think that really is the key here, is that people aren't happy. And even people like you who just started off claiming to be so, well off and comfortable, you don't sound very comfortable, because the truth of the matter is we're all in this together. And if there's a group of people, whether they be, you put them in that category and you really sound like that you feel better than a lot of other people. And the truth of the matter is that we affect each other. And maybe physically, like how you're saying it, because we're getting in your faces and stuff. Well, that's because there's some something going on that we need everyone to be heard. And we're especially talking to people like you who are in this fence, who hasn't obviously taken the time to understand how the world works. Because there's things like the reason we left Britain in the first place was things like the centralized banking system, which was reinstated again in about 1913. The Federal Reserve is a privately owned business, bro. Did you know that the government has its own authority to print money without any interest, but instead we go to the Federal Reserve and have them print money that charges us interest? Did you know that, my friend? These things do affect you.
You want that money. You want that money.
No, we don't. We want jobs. We want a fair shake at the American dream.
No, well, first of all, I'm very happy in the way I live. You're totally
You don't sound like it.
You don't understand me. What I've done is I've worked hard for a living all my whole life, and basically I've earned what I've gotten. I know supposedly your system is which you have a falsity on. I know what the system works. I did not get a loan. I live within my means. I didn't try to justify and get huge amount of interest rates and buy things that I don't need. I live within my means. I'm very happy at what's going on. What I see is you guys are not paying your fair share. You're sitting there and marching on something that you have no basis on. You haven't earned the right to get what you have. You got to put your time in, buddy.
I'd just like to say that real quick before you go. I just gave the IRS $100,000. So I work very hard as a musician. I've been on major motion picture soundtracks. I had a record label. I've gone for 4 months at a time, hitting 3 cities a day, planes, trains, and automobiles on 2 hours of sleep so that I could sit here at 4 o'clock in the morning and do a morning show on a radio station and then do another one when I get to an event, sign autographs in between, then go through a band rehearsal and a sound check to stand up on stage and do an hour set to come back down to do another meet and greet and another interview, to then go straight directly to an airport on another flight so that I could wake up 2 hours later and do the same thing all over again for 4 months straight. Now, I don't know how much sleep you get at night with your job, but I've worked very hard for what I've done, and I've worked very hard to get what I've got, and it's unconstitutional. I'm comfortable too. This isn't a group of homeless people that are sitting down. I still have my apartment. I take people from this protest back to my house to shower and stuff like that. I bring them food. I feed them. I am not a homeless individual who is jobless. I do very well. I'm just saying what our government is doing to the rest of these people is wrong.
Yeah, and I would like to address that too. It is a major misconception in the mainstream media that these are only people camping out in tents, because there are a lot of people that come after work to the General Assembly, which is at 7:30 every night. And if you're part of the 99%, you're invited to participate. And so a lot of people, they go to their jobs, they park their cars, and they come to the GA. You know, they take part in committees, and then they go home. Some people come on the weekends. Some people come when they can. This is not about putting your tent there because you're lazy and you're sitting around and you have nothing to do. This is about opening up a democratic forum right on the steps of, the democratic system that has failed us. So it is a major misconception. The other thing is this is not a young people's movement. This is the people's movement. And if you go down there yourself, you will see that there's a wide spectrum of all different kinds of people from this society that are there. There are senior citizens, there are very old people with walkers. It's not young college students who are there, and it's not young dropouts. There are people who've been working their entire lives and are frustrated at the system that is failing us. So I would invite anybody to come down there and judge for yourself, because the things that they show you on TV and the clips that they do show you, that's not really what's happening. That's a part of what's happening, but there's a lot more going on, and you have to go down there and see it for yourself.
All right, guys, stick around. Coming up after the news at the top of the hour here, we'll hear about what will make the occupiers happy. What ends this protest? Do they even know? We'll find out. They're here today to tell us. This is Occupy KFI on KFI AM 640, more stimulating talk radio. This is KFI AM 640, more stimulating talk radio. I'm Shannon Farron from KFI News. This is Occupy KFI. Protesters have set up camp in 80 countries, something like 900 cities, including here in LA at City Hall on the lawn there. This has lasted 52 days, and 3 of the occupiers, well, they've kind of moved in here at KFI for a couple hours. They say they're going to leave, but jury's still out on that one. Let's introduce you again to Travis Shivers. Travis.
Hello, everyone. Yes, real quick, I've been in LA for 7 years. I've been in the entertainment business the whole time. Recent years, the last few years, I've done made commercials and produced videos and documentaries. I'm here, really because it does start off physically with the dynamics of the economy and everything like that. I've felt it, and I've seen so many people feel it. But I really believe that what's happening right now is the evolution of consciousness is like a paradigm shift. I believe that we are really coming into a time where everyone's starting to understand that we're on this planet together, that we're one human family. And, in a way, it's like we're actually unifying the 99% into the 100%. I really see that. I really feel that in my heart. And that's the influence that I have on this. I wanted to bring up, how amazing it's been to see the support we've gotten from the city council, from the police. I mean, that's a real big misconception that there's this battle going on, because I've talked to so many police guys who really get it, who understand that they're a part of this and their hands are tied behind their backs. They're doing the best I can, and the power of the movement is through the peace, because as long as we're not pushing them to have to do anything, we could march up this hill together. And, there's examples all around the country of police refusing to arrest, under the issues of a few arrests could cause a larger upscale. The local governments don't always know how to police, and the police know. You guys know what to do in your hearts. And this is a call to you because this is about you. I want to also bring up, OccupyMarines.org. The Marines are putting a call out to all military people. Show up with your uniforms, protect the protesters. This is about, protecting the Constitution, protecting us as citizens, and that is what you really were doing in war. And that's what vets are telling me, So I'll end with that real quick.
Hi, I'm Megan McCauley. I guess international recording artist. And yeah, I have to agree with what you're saying. I think we need more veterans down there supporting the 99%, because no one knows better about, fighting in vain for this country, than they do. They're not fighting for constitutional rights. We've kind of forgotten what the Constitution actually says, I think. We need a read along. Can we do a read along? That'd be great. So, yeah.
Hi, I'm Elijah Wolf, and I'm a 21-year-old student at USC, and I'm down here for the same reasons. I mean, I'm down here because things need to change. Things really need to change. And I'd also like to point out, I think there's another misconception that's going on about this whole Occupy movement, that somehow there's something that you're down there and then therefore you're affiliated, but we did something else. There's no membership, there's no form, there's no pledge. You don't need to enter your PIN number or anything like that. If you show up and you respect the democratic process that we are creating, that we are working with each other to create, then you are part of this movement. I mean, if you're listening to this radio show and these ideas are entering your head and you hear things and you want to talk about them and you think we should do things differently, then please come down and talk to us. Because all we are people that showed up on a spot of land and said, let's try to build something new here. So this is an open invitation to anybody who's frustrated with our government and the problems with our country, to come together and to try and work out solutions.
Do you see a turning point in the future where you realize or you think that things are starting to change, or people are listening and acting somehow? What needs to happen for you to feel successful at pack up and go home?
The rest of the 99% needs to wake up.
I don't really think this should end. I feel like that what's happening, like I said earlier, is this is an amazing thing to come together and have such a think tank happen. It's constant dialogue and expressing ideas of the solution and going over the notes of what we're all experiencing. I think this is the way things should be, we have the technology now. Why do we even need leaders? Why can't we just use the internet and such things to all vote democratically and have this thing going on like a new way of life? What I see going on is a changing of the world, literally. And, there's, and unfortunately I hate to say it, you got to realize the rabbit hole runs deep. You got to really have firsthand experience with this. It's hard to understand over the media. It's hard to understand through pictures. It's hard to understand, through this way. So become a part of it, because the truth is, it does affect everybody. Even if you feel very well off and you don't really understand what's going on, trust me, this affects you in a big picture. And maybe your cousin or your mom or your dad or your kids, maybe they're not in the same boat. We all know we have family members that could use help. This is about our families. This is about all of us coming together and pursuing happiness.
Yeah, I think that as far as going home, I mean, I don't want to go home until we see a real democratic society where society starts to reflect, the wants and the desires and the frustrations of the people, of the population. I mean, until we start to see things that'll happen that'll bring us a real infrastructure, real public education, transportation. I'm not talking about free handouts. I'm talking about infrastructure, because I don't believe in welfare and I don't believe in handouts. I believe that if you build schools and if you have programs to get people jobs, to do work that will turn this country into the greatest country the world has ever seen, then we will really start to get going someplace. I mean, that's what I want to see. I want to see the millions and billions of dollars that are in the pockets of the 1%, that are in the pockets of CEOs and in the pockets of, hedge fund managers, taxed. And those taxes to be, used for the benefit of our country's infrastructure, because that is what is falling apart right now. I mean, that's why I'm here, because I am, on my way to graduate with a degree and then enter into what society, and I'm looking at a 9% unemployment rate right now. You count the amount of people that work part-time, the amount of people who have given up looking for a job, that's 17%. And that's right now. And the middle class is shrinking and the 1% is getting more and more of the wealth. So what are we looking at for the future? That's what this is about.
Do you see more politicians getting involved? Obviously, with the democratic society, we elect politicians to speak for us. Do you think that you'll see more show up at these Occupy movements, or that they are failing you at this point?
I mean, personally, I feel that the Democratic system and the Republican, both parties, I feel like they are failing us at this point. And I know in Atlanta, a senator came down to Atlanta, and the occupiers there didn't allow him to speak. They didn't want to hear what he had to say. Now we haven't had that happen yet. No one's come down, but we'll see what happens, because what happens is if a politician comes down and we decide we want to hear him out, we'll hear him out. If we decide we don't want to hear him out, we won't hear him out. It's whatever the consensus of the majority is. It's whatever we agree upon.
I like to think that, we will see more of that. Obviously, they're going to want to be getting support for, their side, and to look at the numbers here. There's a lot of people involved in this, But further than that, again, I think this is really a personal movement. I think this is really about, going through changes on an individual level. I've changed from this. I'll never be able to go back to regular society the same way, because there's just, I had an idea things were kind of messed up before, but it's overwhelmingly true. And I'm talking to people that I can share my Facebook page. Like, there's so many different amazing people. Celebrities are coming down. Why would they be doing this? They get to lead these dream lives. The reason is that there once was a time when the American dream was real. And I believe in that. I'm in the film business because I still believe in America. I'm proud to be an American. I believe in democracy, and I believe in the Constitution of the United States of America. And that is at jeopardy right now. I, as a normal person, normal citizen, do not have the same freedom and ability to make my dreams come true as we used to. That is now dead. And we have physical evidence to support it. And that's serious to me. And to say that real quick, but the solution isn't seriousness. It's about coming together and positivity. The drum circles, the people playing, and that's very important, because we can't move forward if we don't have a clear head and we're happy and positive. This is very icky, sticky, heavy stuff. You can't expect us to be these robots who are just going to come down and change the world overnight. We're human beings. We need support. We need a lot of support on site. They've shut down the food, the health department. Those issues with and so it's really hard to get the food now. Anything you can do, at every level is very much needed, and you are a part of this, process. Just even if you can't come down, to send things, through online. People delivered pizzas from Japan to New York. I mean, there's things you can do even if you can't be on site. There's all kinds of stuff going on in that capacity.
Yeah. And back to what you were saying, it seems like it's turned from, we've lost the right to the pursuit of our happiness, and it's all gone towards the pursuit of corporations' happiness. We've kind of gotten lost somewhere. That's gone downhill. What was it you were saying earlier before we were on air about the increased percentage of...
Yeah, it was that in 1990, since 1990, the average CEO's pay has increased by 432%. and the average worker's pay has increased by 4%. So there is productivity. There is, there are things being made, things being sold, but that wealth and what we're accumulating, it's not being distributed to the workers, to the people who made it, to the people who show up every day and do their jobs. That wealth is happening, but it's not being, and this isn't about, a redistribution of wealth, to the poor. It's giving the wealth to the people who made that money. You made that money, you showed up and worked. Well, it should go back to your society in one way or another. It shouldn't remain in the pockets of the people who already have billions of dollars.
Okay, let's get to check us some traffic real quick, guys. And then when we come back, Occupy KFI rolls on. We'll be taking your call. We won't. The occupiers will be taking your calls at 1-800-520-1KFI. Again, that's 1-800-520-1534. This AM 640, more stimulating talk radio.
Coming up on K.F.I. More stimulating talk radio.
This is KFI AM 640, more stimulating talk radio. Saturday, October 29th. I'm Shannon Farron from KFI News, and this is Occupy KFI, where the occupiers, fresh from the lawn at City Hall, are here to take your calls at 1-800-520-1KFI. Let's just start it right now. Let's go to John in Glendale. John.
Hey, Shannon. How you doing?
Doing well, John.
Question. I got a question for the occupiers. I've been down there, and I wanted to know how come there aren't any American flags anywhere to be found at any of the protests?
When was the last time you were there?
October 14th.
Okay, well, if you were there on the 15th, my friend, there was the march. It was a global day of action, and it was, coordinated across a lot of cities in America as well as a lot of cities around the world. And I camped next to my friend Eric, who came down, and he had a giant American flag, and it was pretty huge. It was like 4 feet across or something, and he went on the march, waving around that flag, and that flag was up there. And if you go down there now, there are a lot of flags, and we are there because of the First Amendment of the Constitution. That's the reason why we're there. And I have it right in front of me. I want to read it. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or the press, or the right of the people, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. And so that's why we're there.
Okay, I got another question. So do you guys still have those pumpkins down there with, you got like a pumpkin that looks like Rush Limbaugh and...
yes, yeah. That person is there, but...
How come there isn't any, like President Obama or Biden? It seems like there's... You guys
see that? Okay, you got to realize one of the aspects here is this isn't something that everyone's got control of as a group. This is an individual thing. That person is just somebody who come down and put that up. I don't know. I saw that person there. There's actually been people that are there on their own who didn't even like that as a display, and they went to him at one point and tried to get him to leave. You got to realize this isn't, just because it's there doesn't mean this is representative as a group. This is a foreground for all us as individuals to come and express ourselves individually. I don't know why the Obama's not there. I personally haven't looked at the pumpkin thing too much. I just kind of glanced at it, But the point I'm trying to make is that this is very much an individual inspired thing. So, it's a place where we all could be heard.
Yeah, if you got something to say, go down there and talk. Step up at GA, say what you want, whatever your grievances are. We're all there on an individual level, but all acting as community. So, there's going to be, it's 99%. So you're going to have, people who come down and do this or do that or agree and disagree, because there's 99% of us. You have your opinion of right. I have my opinion of right. Travis has his opinion of right. We can't all be right, so we've just got to kind of come together and find common ground and learn how to coexist. And that's kind of what's going on.
Thanks for the call, John. Solomon in Gardena.
How are you doing? Blessings to you all. First, I want to compliment you, Shannon, and KFI 640 AM for allowing these very intelligent, courageous warriors, Travis, Megan, and Elisha Wolf, fight on, Elisha, to use your radio station with its large demographic audience to clarify what they are doing. And I am part of that particular movement. And if Travis, Megan, Elijah, if you guys have a paper and pen in front of you, I want to make a suggestion before I want to speak to you about the potential of raising $1 billion for your movement. The movement needs to have clarification, and instead of you calling yourself occupiers, it's very toxic. The semantics is toxic, and it makes you sound like Nazi stormtroopers occupying Tel Aviv in Israel.
Yeah,
so you've got to
thing.
change your semantics that people will accept you, like that gentleman that had called that was angry. If you use the terminology, the Spirit of America Movement for Justice, no one in the country will initiate any negativity towards the Spirit of America Movement for Justice. You can call yourselves Spirit of America Patriots. And when people ask you, what is the agenda for your organization, you are in the process of creating the Spirit of America Patriots political party to put the 99% into the White House, into the Congress and Senate in 2012 election. That's how you can change this particular country. Now, in regard to the $1 billion, I am part of the 99% like you. 66 years old, fighting the battle. I got ripped off by Rupert Murdoch and Fox. The project is glee on air. It's made over $4.5 billion. I didn't even have the right. I'm a Vietnam-era vet. I didn't even have the right for my court case to go before Judge Stephen V. Wilson, the federal courthouse right up the street from you at 312 North Spring Street, in regard to a $4 billion lawsuit against Rupert Murdoch and Fox Broadcasting for ripping me off. And I'm going to come down there to your organization, speak to your group to see if I can get your assistance to help me to protest in front of the federal court building to allow me to get a trial with my peers that I can win, and by the grace of God, I win $4 billion. I will put $1 billion in your movement because you are warriors of light, and things need to be changed, and I love you for it.
Solomon, thanks so much for your call. I'm sure they'll be ready to help you out with that.
It's a deal.
It's all about the First Amendment here.
Come on down. Come on down to the occupation and speak.
So,
all right, we're going to check some news with Amy King. Occupy KFI will come back and take some more of your calls at 1-800-520-1KFI. All right, let's get the news. Amy, what's happening?
There have been
Before, this is KFI AM 640, more stimulating talk radio. I'm Shannon Farron from KFI News, and this is Occupy KFI. Taking your calls right now at 1-800-520-1KFI. Let's go to Cheryl in Long Beach. Cheryl. Hi.
Hello. Travis, Elijah, and Megan. This is Cheryl.
Hi, Cheryl.
You know, I've been sitting here listening to everything, and I want you to know right now that I am not against anything that you're saying. You guys sound very intelligent. But my spidey senses just came up. Listening to the last guy, there's a lot of people down there that are trying to take advantage of us, Soros, the unions. They're going to sit here and they're going to say, I have never heard of somebody offering $1 billion and more. You have to be really careful. And the reason a lot of your callers are frustrated is because a lot of us work in the private sector. I was in escrow, and I still am, since 2007 when I was laid off, and I was making over $4,000 a month. Now I'm lucky to make $2,000. And I still have my house. I'm barely afloat. We all work so hard to have what we have. And your real frustration, and I'm on your side. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of people. I'm listening to you, and I really have to say that I'm glad that I called. Because listening to you, you guys have the right frame of mind, but you need to be careful, number one. And number two, you need to know exactly who you need to go after. And capitalism is what keeps the United States of America what it is. We have people like Soros and the unions, and you have to realize unions are trying to take money from us. And by taking money from us and having their different... I'm trying to think of the word. I wrote everything down so that I would remember to tell you. The pensions. They're killing us financially. There's a lot of things that are good about unions, and they're bad, and it's not good for Americans, and it's costing us our jobs. You need to realize who you need to go against. You need to... instead of sitting on grass.
Well, see, that's what's going on is that, that's hard to do on an individual level, just researching on Google. That's a huge part of what's happening is we're coming together, all kinds of people, super intelligent people, I've talked to several college professors. That's what this is about, is coming together and learning what is happening, why it's happening, and who we hold accountable for it. We did talk about that on break, by the way. The whole $1 billion thing is a very red flag scope, but this isn't about the money. This is about people coming together. And in fact, the help that we need the most is not money. It's physical, stuff. It's your heart into it. It's being online when you can. If you can't come down there, it's a lot of us are straying away from the money side. We think that that's part of the issue.
Yeah, and I'd also like to mention that our finances are totally transparent down there. I mean, there is a board where it talks about, what we spent the money on, porta potties, food, tents, and we talk about like how much money was donated, and we vote on anything over $50. It has to go through consensus of a group. So we are setting up within this movement, within this system. I mean, we're making it pretty much impossible for an individual to walk up and try to co-opt it because you need consensus of the group. And I understand that there are a lot of threats. I mean that's what happened with the Tea Party, which started out as a grassroots movement and then it got co-opted. And we are wary of that. And red flags do go up. And I understand that, there's positive things about unions and there's negative things about unions, and we've got to look at it, for what it is and talk about it and figure out what's really going on there. So I really understand your concerns, and it's this is what I'm telling everybody. But if you got an idea, if you want to see something we want to do, come down there and express it. Show up to your local occupation and express it.
I agree with that. I'm not saying I'm agreeing to disagree. Mm-hmm. And the reason I'm agreeing to disagree is because we need more people to stand up. We need more Americans. And yes, we are going to have a revolution, and it's going to be a revolution of the people who work their asses off. And there are those who don't work their asses off. There's people that
want to have
social programs for me and you and everybody out there listening, that we have to take care of them. And I don't mind helping those who need the help, because there was a lady out here 2 days ago in front of my house with her 2 little dogs. She was homeless. It was 60 degrees outside. I gave her $30 because that's all I could afford to feed her dogs. I had food in my car for her dogs, and I will take care of those who can't help themselves. But when there's people out there who can, but they refuse to because they want somebody like me who's already scrimping and saving and trying to keep my home afloat, and I'm working so hard, I think that's where I draw the line. I'm going to take my shirt off my back, but I won't take my shirt off my back so that I can't give it to my child who's going to freeze.
Oh yeah, no, that's and that's the thing is you. We're not about taking the shirt off your back. It's about showing up and contributing something. And when everybody contributes something, you build something that is much stronger than the individual. It is each individual showing up as a free entity. I am myself. I can choose to do what I want to do, and then we join together, and then we create something that is much more powerful than what we can do alone.
What I want to say to that is, I believe a lot, and I think a lot about virtues, understanding, forgiveness, compassion, love, and respect. I get agitated at these people as well. I live in Los Angeles, and Venice Beach is nothing but, it seems like there are a lot of mentally ill people. There's a lot of drug addictions, and, I talk with these people, and what I really feel is that they're just people aren't inspired. There's a lot of people in their own level don't feel like they have a chance in what's happening. It's apathy and it's negativity. And I I really believe that if we as a culture, as a society, offered something to them that looked like it was the real thing, that they had a chance with it, that there wouldn't be, all these people who are just trying to freeload. It's because they're not inspired. They don't believe in the system. They don't believe in what we're offering them as a group. And so I choose to try to be in compassion and understanding more than, looking at it at face value, because, we could all look at each other in a really negative light if we want to, no matter who you are. Hey, Megan, I wanted to ask you too, what is your favorite kind of pie?
Occupy.
All right, with that, let's check some traffic. How long did it take you guys to come up with that? Come on. A couple days? 52 of them? All right, let's check some traffic, and then it's your last chance to question the Occupy KFIers, unless they don't leave. Then they'll be here.
We got the tent downstairs.
For another month or so.
We neglected to tell you.
All right, this is K.F.I. AM 640, more stimulating talk radio. Shannon Farron, and you're listening to KFI AM 640, more stimulating talk radio. This is Occupy KFI. Reese in Brentwood. What's happening, Reese?
It's been a minority opinion in this country that has always fostered the greatest change. There weren't a lot of people that thought ending slavery was a good idea. A war started because of it. The women's right to vote had very few voices that were supporting it, and believe me, there were a dearth of Americans that thought civil rights was a great idea. It's always a minority opinion that starts these things, that gets them going, and it takes a brave voice to stand up for these things. You three people, your cause is righteous, okay? And you guys are patriots, and there's no glory in it. You have to sit at the station and listen to people call you and tell you you're slackers and you just get a job, and that's no fun. You have to bear that and keep going, because what you're doing is important. What you're doing is decidedly American, and what you're doing is going to foster the kind of change that this country needs, because we have been steered towards being an oligarchy, and that's not cool. Nobody wants that. We also don't want to end, capitalism, but capitalism can be this rushing river, and rivers that rush like that, they need locks and dams, People like you stand up, and it's not fun, and it can't be easy on you, but I, for one, am really glad that you're there, and you have my support.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
That was beautiful, man. Thank you.
Yeah. Wow, I can't argue that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that is what we're trying to do. We're trying to, interject these ideas and make it, the mainstream conversation that's happening everywhere. And,
well, here's the thing I got to say about that really is personally, that is exactly what I'm asking for all of you is I have a film career, and it's really nice. I love to name drop all these things. I've had a really good time, and I'm putting that on the back burner for the greater good of everybody. And it's not easy, and it hasn't been fun, but it's so rewarding. And I can honestly say that I'm a happier person with all this chaos that I've been through in the last month. And it really does come down to making a personal decision, to prioritize the human race, the human family, our country before our own personal needs and goals and dreams.
I'm really happy to be a part of this and do this. I mean, it's been, as a recording artist, I feel it's kind of my responsibility to stand up. And I think that I'm really happy that we've had like Tom Morello and a bunch of other people come down and do that, because I feel that it is our it's our position. We're supposed to, as artists, all of this focus goes on us, and what we really should be doing is turning it around, once we have a certain level of fame or followers, and go, no, don't look at us. I'm glad you like my music, but listen, this is, what's going on, and redirect it where it needs to be, and shine a light on what needs to be shown. So for me, I just kind of feel obligated that, stuff is going down and it needs to be fixed. And I feel as an artist, it's my duty to make sure that people see that and realize that.
Yeah, because once this idea really enters, the mainstream and becomes a topic of conversation, we will see change, because we will be out in the streets and we will be demanding change. And the only reason that there is a power structure is because we allow it, is because we support it and we consent to the system. And that's why the system is in place. And when we stop consenting and when we say we don't need to live this way, we need to follow these rules, we can write our own rules and we can be self-reliant and we are free individuals, then we will see change. And I want to let people know too, to find us on Facebook and to find us on Twitter, and to find us on YouTube, because that's where the voice of the people is right now. That's what we're that's where you'll get the real news from, because that's what's happening to us in these camps. And I also want to say that November 5th is a national day of action. It is transfer your money out of the banks day. Transfer your money out of the big institutions and open up an account with your local credit union. And if you go on Facebook, there's over 30,000 fans on the Facebook page, and it's going to happen. And we are organizing massive movements of civil disobedience. And if you withdraw your money on November 5th, you're not acting alone. You're acting in solidarity with thousands of protesters all over the world.
And another thing too, November 2nd is National General Strike on everything. People aren't buying, they're not going to work, they're not going to school, they're not driving. One of the solutions that we can have is we have buying power as a consumer, and where we put our money is so huge. Keep in mind that being responsible, you might just being responsible for paying your bills, which a lot of times is corporate bills, funding these people who are turning around and hurting you and your families. Be smart about your money, be smart about your power, because that is a huge, huge way that we can change the world.
Yeah, and invest in your community. Invest in the local businesses in your community, because multinational corporations, they're expanded all over the world. But the people that live in your community, that that really put their lives into what they're doing. I mean, that's the people who we have to look after. Mm-hmm. But before we can fix the problems in our government, we have to fix the problems in our community, and those are the people we need to care about first.
Yeah, this is a time of self-empowerment, of us awakening that this is our world. This is our time. We're alive all together here. There is nobody to call and say, fix this. There's, we've been giving our power away for way too long. And what this is a massive awakening to the fact that this is our world, our family, our time to make a difference. And at the end of the day, everything we're all trying to do is for the pursuit of happiness anyway. That can be found right now by just overlooking the perceived challenges and stepping up the plate, because I know in your heart, in your intuition, you're feeling this. You want to be a part of this. Be creative and figure out how you can do it, because that's where we all are going to come together and be happy.
Yeah, because whatever you can do, whatever you're good at doing, whatever your strength lies, that's what is that makes you. And we're all coming together. Each individual is coming together, and we're figuring out what we're good at doing, and we're doing it. And we're working towards a common goal, which is to dismantle the 1% and give the power back to the 99%.
And I hope they do it willfully. Like my vision, I am one of those hippie kids, and I would love to see them be inspired to do such. For us to come together in such a way that they realize that for us to actually earn the respect, for us to not come pointing fingers and be mad at them, but come to them in functional, responsible, respectful ways, and for them to see, that what has happened, we might have done the same thing in their shoes. I'm not like blaming people or I want to hurt people. I'm not trying to get people in trouble. I just want everyone to understand that we should go back to something simple we should have learned in kindergarten, which is share and share alike.
We're not trying to take down a democracy. We're trying to restore one.
Yeah, things like no one should get 2 until everyone gets 1. I mean, these are basic human things. I don't understand how we lost that.
Yeah, and this is and again, we're done with divides. We've been divided for too long among too many ways. We're done being divided.
Bob Marley calls them the ism and schism games. All the sexism, the racism, and all these things, these are just dividing us. And they're maybe even put in culture on purpose. Who knows? But the truth is, for us individually to move forward, we have to come together as a group.
All right, guys, that's it for Occupy K.F.I. Thank you, occupiers, for taking over K.F.I. for a couple hours.
Thank you for having us
I think
here.
everyone has a better idea of what you're trying to do there. And good luck to you. That's all the time we've got for today. Up next, Lisa Ann Walter from 4 to 7, and then from 7 to 10, it's Phil Hendry. This is K.F.I. AM 640, more stimulating talk radio.
Saturday, October 29th.
Government spokesman warned that dead bodies will continue to be transferred